Welcome to our pre-con session. Hi, Chuck Sigmund.
Happy Valentine's Day to you. I'm so glad to be here with you.
I know. I forgot it was Valentine's Day. Hey, we're here at the Crazy Live Training Magazine Conference and Expo. And
if you're here, you need to come by and see us at Monica's Gamification booth, or just come by and say hi to me. You'll find me in my bright red jacket.
Yes.
I'm wandering a bit, and then I'll be over here in the AR, VR space doing some demos of the augmented reality work I've been doing.
So you've got demos this afternoon?
Yeah.
Today, all day?
Yep, and at 2:30 this afternoon, if you're around, I'm talking about the future of technology and learning and development. So let's talk AR, let's talk ChatGPT, let's talk about whatever you're interested in.
Very good. Chuck Sigmund has been with me from the very beginning of me doing, hey, Glenda, glad you're here. From the beginning of me going out there to the world with my gamification design courses. And Chuck was actually my very first student in my online course, and we became friends. So Chuck was beginning his adventure. He already had a really super strong, I mean, he's been a global manager for Fortune 5 companies, numerous, that he's been the global L&D director of a variety of different programs, but he was looking to bring gamification design into what he was doing. And since we met and he did that, he's also brought just, I don't want to say hundreds, but quite a few students,
dozens.
Yeah, dozens into our program because he's seen the power of it. So I wanted to talk to Chuck today because we're both at the Training Magazine Conference in Orlando. I want to talk to him about just what he's working on, because there's always something new and exciting. Like, he started a program called Theater Think. And what's the premise of Theater Think?
So one of the problems I've seen in learning and development over the last, let's say, 20 years that I've been in this space is that we get in these conversations where you have an L&D person, you have an operations person, maybe you have a director or a manager, you have a VP, and they're all using the same terminology, but it doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. My biggest one that I bring up is objectives, right? As an L&D professional, I talk about objectives. I'm usually talking about learning objectives, or maybe business objectives, but largely learning objectives. I use that word in that conversation, and the operations manager has one thing he's got on his mind, and the director, she's got a different idea of what that word means. So what we've tried to do, Josh, my friend Josh Penzel and I, what we've tried to do is coalesce around what does the language mean. And the easiest way we could do that is take the language of theater and say, let's apply that in the L&D space. Because when we talk about actions, for example, there's a very clear definition of action in theater. And if we can get everybody to agree to what an action is and what an outcome is, because there's an outcome in theater, right? I do something because I want a result from you. I want you to react in a certain way. If we can all agree to what that language is, it makes our conversations go much more efficiently, and we don't have this back and forth or miscommunication.
That's excellent. And you know what I love the whole idea about that is it's when people have that common language, the communication gets so simplified. Like, I love when, like, we just even have words that when we just say it to each other, we know exactly what it means and we don't have to spend 20 minutes explaining it. So having that common language is really effective for, it's not because we have to get things done more quickly, but it just saves so much time and everyone's on the same page. We're all going the same direction.
We're able to reduce frustration immensely just by having the same common understanding. You know, if I bring it into the gamification world, I talk a lot about personas. When I do the L1 certification training, you know, we talk about personas, but I really hone in on that, because for me, if we understand what a persona is, if we understand who our target audience is, and again, that doesn't matter if you're operations, you're marketing, you're an HR VP, if we know what our audience is and we can understand that the word persona means audience, and we're really trying to target who it is we want to reach, now all of a sudden it becomes really easy. When I say, Monica, who's your persona? Who's your ideal customer persona? If you're a marketing person, you go, oh, that person looks like this, and they make this kind of money, and they're in this business, whatever. Or if I'm a learning and development person, I go, oh, my audience, my persona is my learner, and here's what they look like, and here's who they are. That makes it so that I can target them so much more effectively. And
haven't you found, though, Chuck, when you start having that persona conversation with people, though, they look at you like, how could I possibly know that? And I think, just like what you said, if I'm talking to marketing knows right away, or they shouldn't be in your marketing department. Exactly. I mean, right, if they don't know who this product is for, then they have no business trying to market it, because we're just, throwing spaghetti at the wall. Same thing with our learning programs. We're under this false thinking. The mindset has got to shift. We're under this false thinking that one size fits all. We got 1,200 people, 12,000 people, 120,000 people. Doesn't matter. We're just going to wrap it up in a nice little bow and say, here, take it. And I'm paying you, so you're going to enjoy it. And make sure you learn something along the way. And it doesn't work. And I get so frustrated, because the only reason we should be providing training to our team members, our employees, is so they can learn something to do something. And that could be something that they want to improve in their own personal life. But the more that we help them to grow and develop and be successful, that just makes them an even better team member. So whether it's something about a process or it's critical thinking skills, if they need to know it, then we've got to give it to them in a format that it's going to work for them.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've tried to do over the years is take some of the strategies that marketing in particular uses when they're thinking about their ideal customer persona. There's a framework that if you work with a marketing person, they have a set of common questions that they use every time, whether it's for a product release, a service release, whatever it is. They've got 10 or 12 questions that they use to really hone in on who is it this product is for. We in L&D have not done that well over the years, right? We've just, to your point, we've said, oh, we've got this security and compliance training. We're just going to roll it out to the entire company. And I've worked for companies with over 1 million employees worldwide, right? I'm telling you, an employee in India and an employee in Kentucky, they are not the same. They need different approaches. So really taking those questions and saying, all right, let's understand, what are their demographics? What are their psychographics? What are their likes and dislikes? What are the sorts of things that motivate them? How do we activate those motivations so that they'll want to be engaged? And it's not one of those, oh, it's another security training that I have to take.
Well, and that's the challenge too, is that for so much of this, because that individual does not see, and I always say, how is this going to make me thinner, richer, faster, taller, right? Because that's the pain points that we're all trying to fill. Now, in the work situation, there's something different. But if they don't see, how is this going to help me? What's in it for me? All they see is another initiative. Oh, it's just something else. Don't get overexcited about it. A few weeks from now, they'll change their mind and we'll go another direction, right? So they're not buying into it, again, because we haven't made that connection for them. And it's our job as L&D professionals to connect those dots and really find out, how can we help you? How can we help you be successful? What do you not have now that you need? And how can we close that gap for you?
I think that's especially important with required training. Most of us in the L&D world, if we're building training for our companies, there's always annual training around compliance, whether that's a security training, a data security training, sexual harassment training, right? All of those. And a lot of times that training is truly compliance. They just kind of spit out what the rules are and the professional guidance is. But there's no reason we can't make that truly targeted to the individual and say, here's why this is important to you, right?
Right.
If you're an HR professional, it's important to you to learn about anti-discrimination law because you're protecting the company and yourself from lawsuits, etc. If you're an employee, here are the behaviors we want you to practice or not practice, because we're trying to help you protect yourself, be more successful in your own career, etc. So really kind of targeting, this is why you want to take this, right? And getting to what are the different audiences that we need to lay that out for.
That's so good. And really with the technology, like with your company, with your business intelligence, we decided BI needed a little bit more sexiness last night. So we came up with big ideas and also bitchin' ideas, which I like better. But when we think about that personalization of learning, what Chuck's saying is so key, because why I need to know it as an HR professional versus why the employee, and then the employee sees some kind of behavior and is wondering, okay, now I'm not sure about this one, but they know the framework. So at least they're asking that question, like, I want to do the right thing and I'm really not sure here. So then they go to the HR professional who can help guide them. I love it so much. So talk with me, like, what's your next big thing?
Next big thing. So, on the personal side, as you know,
well, we don't. We can talk about it if you want to.
I'm all right. I was one of the 10,000 3 weeks ago at Microsoft who was invited to take on new opportunities in
New
my life. We'll
opportunities.
frame it that way. And at this point, I'm looking for what is that next big thing? How do I help an organization think about what their L&D strategy is going to be in a creative way? I had some great conversations here at the conference yesterday with different companies who were thinking about how do we leverage some of the new technology, whether it's Chat GPT, whether it's AR, whether it's VR, all of the different technology that's available. How do we use that to really move our L&D strategy forward? And to me, this is an incredibly exciting time, right? ChatGPT 3 months ago, nobody had even really heard of it.
We had a conversation and we're like, oh, what is that? And and then it just went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I had conversations yesterday with, how do we combine ChatGPT with other AI tools with augmented reality to create some sort of environment where people can collaborate virtually and get information from the web and pull in voice and create avatars, right? There is so much to be done here with companies that are willing to be creative and do some inventive and really powerful stuff.
That's really good. And here's what, so we had our group that's here working the booth. We say, at Sententia, once you start joining us, in certifications, you not only get education, but you also get a family. So there were, I don't know, a dozen of us last night who are all friends and consider each other family. And I'll start getting weepy here, but Chuck was kind of diagonal from across the table. So we were just talking about, his next steps. And you said something, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but I thought it was really wise. So at the stage that you are in your career, people hire Chuck because of his expertise and his experience, and he is sharp, he's creative, he's a connector. If he doesn't know something, he goes and finds the person who does know it, and then he brings that person into his network. And right now, the ideal situation for you is a company that's willing to hire you for your expertise and then release you to use it.
Yeah.
And so often what happens is you bring someone like Chuck onto your team and he tries to release what you hired him to do. And then you hear something like, well, actually, when we said innovation, we meant like use blue paper because we've always used green. So we're just going to really go out there on the ledge and try a different color of paper, right? It's something, and they're not, because they're just so uncomfortable pushing it, that we know in today's marketplace, that's the only way you're going to stay relevant, because we thought things were moving quickly before this.
Some of this is scary shit. I mean, go on LinkedIn and read the different posts about ChatGPT, for example. You have people on absolute diametrically opposed ends of that spectrum. People who think ChatGPT and AI is the next best thing. It's going to absolutely push learning and development and push product development into the next century. Then you got people who are like, oh no, the robots are taking over the world. We absolutely can't use AI. We need to shoot it down. And quite frankly, I worked in Amazon Alexa when Alexa was brand new. I led the L&D team for Alexa. And we heard exactly the same thing. Oh my God, these Alexa devices, they're going to be listening in constantly. They're going to collect all this data about us. The government's going to come into our houses based on what they hear, and they're going to take us away and put us in a gulag, right? And obviously that did not occur. What we need to do is figure out how we harness the power and the innovation of these tools. And that's how I see it. ChatGPT, for example, it is a tool that we can use. If I think about how an instructional designer might use it, for example, I'm going to be on my little pedestal here for a minute and talk about this. But an ID can use ChatGPT to improve their processes, make them far more efficient. I was playing around with it the other day. One of the things we always have to do is build, let's say a DE&I course. And maybe it's how do we have difficult conversations cross-culturally? Well, the way I have always built training around that is to build simulations. I think that's the most useful, powerful way to do it. That takes hours, days, weeks to come up with a good simulation. So I'm playing with ChatGPT and I said, write me a DE&I simulation or a conversation between somebody from India and somebody from the US about this topic. Within 90 seconds, I had Joe says this, Danush says this, just the full simulated conversation. Then I said, Now write me 5 assessment questions based on that conversation. In 5 minutes, I had a structure of what this content could be for my course. Now, it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
And I have to go back and I have
Right.
to massage it, right? But
You
it
have the
saved me
framework.
hours
Yes.
of time.
Yeah.
And I think if we think about it in that kind of mindset, if we say we're going to leverage this to make our lives easier, it becomes just an amazing world to think about where we're going to be. Again, ChatGPT 3 months ago wasn't thought of. Where are we going to be 9, 12 months from now? It's going to be amazing to consider.
Right. Very good. Really good. Okay, so got to keep this to a micro session. So we're going to need to close off, but you can see Chuck and I could talk forever. I even wanted to start talking about when you were talking about training that's like mandatory. The first program that you did way back when was an onboarding program that was just beautiful in the artwork and the weaving of employees into the culture of the organization with a history of the founder and taking them on this journey and just the beauty. And you're not the one that does the aesthetics, but you have the vision for it. Yeah, you have the vision for this is what the journey is going to be, and then he gets those aesthetics brought into it. But if we're looking at like this new world that we're going into, and you're some kind of program manager, global program manager, regional. You might have one section of your organization. You're a chief learning officer, and you said to Chuck, like, okay, I hear you, but really, what am I going to do with this gamification thing you speak of? What would be the one thing that you would want a chief learning officer to know about how they could use gamification?
Again, I always come back to personas. For me, that's where it all has to start. You can't think about motivators. You can't think about mechanics until you know who it is that's going to be using. What is the audience that I'm trying to target so that I know how to build something that works for them? We just don't do that well enough. And we just don't spend the time doing it. It doesn't take a lot of time, and the investment is so worth the return at the end. You'll see so much better outcomes in the long run.
Yeah. And that's all the way down to when and how are they actually going to take the training? Because that sometimes gets missed in that whole analysis. Like, oh, you mean they don't actually have a designated training time? We're just going to squeeze this in. And oh, you mean they have to take it on their iPhone so they're not sitting at a computer, right? All of that changes your design and the interactions and the length of it and all of that. So it's all of those are part of that, those discovery questions that we have to find out about who is this for and why do they need it? And what's going to be different? What's going to look different at the end of it? So much fun, my friend.
Thank you.
We just have a few hours left before you fly back to San Diego. Hey, Trace, hope you're watching. We love you, Tracy. Wish you were here. And but we'll connect again.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And do come by the booth if you're here.
210.
Come find us.
We have Can You Aim Better Than a Stormtrooper game? And you get Jello shots. We also have a Matchimo where we play gamification game to learn about the matching of mechanics and motivators.
And win Jello shots.
And one, no, we got Wookiee cookies. We got Wookiee cookies.
Those are Wookiee
cookies.
Wookiee
cookies. So, but we're at booth 210 in the Trading Hall Expo until 3:00 this afternoon. So stop by and see us. Thank you so much, Chuck. Love you, my friend. All right.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, thanks.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Valentine's.